Let's talk with Cara Csizmadia from the Canadian Camping and RV Council, which partners with CRVA, RVDA Canada, and Go RVing Canada to support the Canadian camping industry. I'm Alex Burkett, and this is the Outdoor Lenses podcast. In today's episode, we'll talk with Cara about their 2023 Canadian Outdoor Hospitality Conference and Expo and preview the upcoming show. Cara, thanks for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure, Alex. Glad to be here. Glad to join you today.
Cara, it might be helpful for some people who maybe are in the US like I am and don't get to hear a lot about what's happening up in Canada to just give a little bit of background on your position as membership coordinator, and then sort of we can jump in and talk more about the show.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. I've actually been involved with the Canadian Camping and RV Council for several years, starting back in about 2013 when I actually was a campground owner myself, and was nominated to their board of directors. So I spent several years in that position, really enjoying the networking opportunities and so much learning and growth that I was able to achieve for my own business from a really vast array of campground owners across Canada who were sitting on that board of directors, some of whom are still doing so. But then in 2019, I sold my park, and the association offered me a job. So I feel very fortunate and happy to stay in the industry that I love. And it was kind of just a fortuitous series of events that fell together really nicely. So essentially, as member services coordinator for CCRVC, I perform all kinds of duties, but my kind of top priority is member services, and that entails all kinds of things from, fielding emails and requests and things like that, lots of phone calls. I spend a ton of time chatting with members across the country. They bring issues to me, but also we like to touch base and have communication about how things are going for them. It's one of the things I love most about my job. I really love campground owners, and I'm so happy to get to be supportive of the industry still. It's great. I also happen to be the executive director of the Parks and Campground Owners Association of Alberta, which is where my park was located. I used to be the chair of that association when I was an operator. So, I've been involved in the industry since about 2007, but we're on the association side since 2019. So only not even a handful of years yet working for the associations, but I really can't say enough how grateful I feel to have fallen into this position. It feels like the perfect fit for me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and so I know one of the biggest things, I was on the Ohio board myself, association, before we jumped in and launched this. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the things that you're talking about. And I know for every association, one of the largest events and services they provide every year is a chance to connect at the upcoming conference for that season. And that's primarily what we're going to talk about today. Just give a little bit of maybe just a quick overview of some information about the show. So some of the dates, the costs that a potential campground owner could expect, and then the format this year. I know you guys are still going to be virtual, correct, as you've been for a couple of years now, and that's maybe a little bit different. But talk about how that format's going to look in some details for the show.
Sure, absolutely. The board did kind of make this difficult decision to stay virtual again this year. That was motivated by a couple of factors. First was an attendee kind of membership survey asking for feedback about their preference between moving in person or staying virtual. And we had just over 60% of those respondents want to stay online. I think a lot of that has to do with kind of just how big Canada is and difficulties around travel and things like that right now, making it tough to commit to getting to one end of the country or other for various members. So that's a big factor. We also did see a couple of in-person events have to be canceled in the fall in the industry. And so that was a little bit daunting, I think, for our group as we, were potentially taking on risk to book meeting space and conference rooms and all of those things. So that was a bit of a gamble we faced. There was a big push to move to in person, specifically, obviously, we know our supplier members really love to meet members, campground owners and operators and industry players in that really personable way. But we just weren't able to make it happen for 2023. We are kind of already talking and in the works regarding 2024's version of the event in hopes to get something hybrid together for that with both a virtual and in-person component. So that's exciting too. But for this year, for 2023, we are February 15th and 16th live virtually with all sessions being available in recorded format immediately after they go live. Those couple of days, in the past, we've done 3 days. We've pared it down to 2, again, in response to attendee survey outcomes that have expressed interest in being glued to their screens a little bit less over less days. So we're jam packing those days with tons of session content and all kinds of, we've got several main stage keynote sessions that will be hosting, and I'm really excited. I have all kinds of exciting stuff I want to announce, but have to wait on a couple of confirmation things and stuff yet. But it's going to be a really fun couple of days full of tons of great content. All of those recordings of those sessions will be made available to association members after as well, after 30 days after the event. So those attendees will have access to that content over and over into the future, just as we've done the previous years, where anyone who's attended the conference and is a member of the association has lifelong access to session recordings, which is a great way, I think, for the content to stay accessible, but also for some of our sponsors and things like that to have really prolonged exposure into the future, given that those recordings will be available. So that's one of the few benefits of virtual, I think, is, that exposure stuff is kind of expanded across more than just those 2 days that a live event would offer, in-person event would offer. So pricing for members of the association, your initial registration is $149. Anyone else from your organization, so say you want to bring a couple staff members or whatever, it's $49 per person. These prices are in Canadian dollars, but we do have some registrants attending from the States already that have actually supported it in the past couple of years as well. We are offering a great promo for another 4 days to anyone who's attended the 2021 or 2022 events or serves on one of our provincial associations on their board of directors. So if that applies to you, reach out to me. I'll get you a special discount code to save you $50 off that initial registration as well. There's no limit to how many of the secondary registrations that you want to bring in. So if you want to bring your whole team at $49 a person, that's a great way to give them exposure to the industry and lots of great education sessions available for sure.
And Cara, I know, as you just discussed, sort of the how members have expressed their opinion about this event in the past. What have people said as far as content goes, or where their thoughts are as we get into 2023, as far as maybe topics that they need help with, or just would like more support on, and challenges that they're facing in their business?
Yeah, that's a great question. We did a really kind of robust survey specifically about this stuff, and I'll admit the majority of our agenda was built out with those survey responses specific to the kinds of content they want to see. So I would say the overwhelming majority of responses come back with requests about things like innovative, technology forward facing strategies, whether that's related to hiring or maximizing, improving efficiency around, taking bookings and things like that will help. Obviously, we've had, similar to you guys in the States, interesting dynamic in terms of labor and staffing and those kinds of things. So that's been a real challenge for a lot of our members. And so ways to address that stuff was a big request. We've also, we've got a big shift, I think, coming specific to electric vehicles, demands around, changing power infrastructure in parks. And we've also got our federal government offering grant programming to campgrounds to install EV charging stations. And so that's motivating a lot of members to start to explore products and services and adding that to their business model. And so we'll have a few sessions specifically around those topics, which were huge requests this year.
And I know another thing that I saw in doing some background research for this is you guys do offer some scholarship opportunities for people who, maybe are in a situation where that would be a way that they could afford to attend the show. Can you touch on just a little bit about that for people who may, want to reach out regarding that?
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to make sure that the event is as accessible as possible. It's important to us that the industry continues to grow. And I think making sure that there's no limitation to attending was important to us. Nominees for scholarship can be sent to me. We'll do a little review. We just kind of collect some basic information about who you're nominating. You can self-nominate as well. And then those registrations will be considered. We have a committee of board members at CCRVC, and they kind of just review and make sure everything looks good to them. And then, we can go through and process registrations for those individuals that qualify.
Cara, can you also talk through sort of a separate part of the show, which is sort of the vendor side of things? People like me who may be looking to attend and register for a booth and maybe even look at sponsorship opportunities and maybe give people sort of a feel for how this event's been in the past, sort of maybe some of the attendance numbers that you're seeing so far and pre-registration, and then the vendor opportunities for people to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've kind of, as of last year, made a shift away from specifically virtual expo booths. The one of the limitations to virtual is really getting exposure over to those individuals, given that it's so user controlled. So we've really shifted focus over to sponsorships, and those conversations I'm having with suppliers on a day-to-day basis right now specifically are around, getting involved to support just the continued enhancement of the industry in terms of delivering this incredible education content that campground operators are looking for. Technically, those sponsorships do include those booth landing pages. They track leads for everyone that's attending and all of those things. Still, they also allow you to feature products and do all kinds of things with that, link to your calendars and Zoom links and all of those things, so you can still really connect with attendees. But we're really pushing the sponsorship side, specifically looking for suppliers who see the value in continuing to educate campground operators now and into the future about changes and shifts, but also those fundamental business basics and those. We've got a ton of workshop opportunities where you have multiple operators in one space talking about kind of, this is how I do it versus this is how so and so does it. We both have very successful outcomes, but these are our kind of motivations for why and things like that. Those are really great opportunities, I think, for attendees to learn from their peers and irreplaceable outside of an event like this. Specific to attendance in the past, we've had incredible support from sponsors in 2021 and 22. Prior to that, we actually had no national conference event for several years, 7 or 8 years. We had no national conference event. A few of our provincial associations do province level conference events that are very successful, specifically BC, Ontario, and Quebec. So those members in those provinces are very fortunate now to have access to kind of 2 really informative, cool ways to learn about the industry. So our only real case basis to relate to is 2021 and 22. Both were virtual events, and we've seen returning sponsors in both of those years, and several of those sponsors returning again now for 2023, as well as some new exciting ones that we'll be announcing in the coming weeks, as we're confirming all of those. I think we are seeing a shift towards in year one, we had the majority of our sponsors were based in the States. We are really seeing a shift towards more Canadian-based suppliers getting involved. And I think that speaks to how quickly the industry is shifting and growing here in Canada. A lot of those suppliers are newer or have grown exponentially in the past couple of years to a place where they're in a position to sponsor, which is fabulous. Regarding pre-registration so far, we have, I don't know exact numbers. We have a couple dozen registrants so far. I believe it's pushing 50 at this point. We are hopeful to see several more registrations pour in over the coming weeks. We have just over a month until the event happens, and we will be accepting registrations right up until February 14th. So
That's another advantage of a virtual event too.
absolutely, yes. It is big to be able to capture those last minute guys who maybe aren't sure or not sure if they have those dates available or whatever, who might jump in last minute. We are accepting sponsorship registrations also from suppliers until February 1st. So we have a few weeks here to kind of get everybody in the door, and then we'll shift focus to making sure our event platform, which we're actually using a new event provider, Unity Event Solutions, which several of our partners at RVDA of Canada and CRVA have used them in the past and are very happy with them. So I'm excited to see how the new platform will look and function and how things will come together for that in a couple of weeks.
And Cara, sort of in that last part, you had mentioned about your sort of the trends and things that you're seeing within the industry as far as suppliers goes and new faces joining the industry. And I know that that can be said across the board from people like me, or even just campground owners entering the space with new developments, new developers, new faces and people entering the industry. So maybe we'll switch gears and preview sort of maybe a little bit of what the conference is going to be about, which is, how's 2023 look from your standpoint? And we're coming out of sort of the national show season here in the States, from the glamping show where I got to see you at, the KOA show, National RVIC in the United States. So, I mean, what are your thoughts and feelings on how the Canadian camping industry is going to look as we enter 2023? And just your thoughts on sort of the new faces and the new people that you see joining the industry.
Yeah, I think 2023 is going to be another wonderful year. I don't know that we will necessarily maintain the kind of skyrocketed level of occupancy stuff that we saw in 2021 and 22. We are seeing things like shortened booking windows, so folks aren't booking as long in advance, but we're seeing trends around longer stays. So instead of 2 or 3 nights, they're doing 4 or 5. Things like that are potentially related to some things happening in the market around gas prices and whatnot. So I'll be interested to see given that gas prices have come down a fair amount, specifically in my province in Alberta. I'll be interested to see how that locally relates to what those booking trends look like for consumers. But overall, I think we still have a unique hurdle here in Canada where we definitely have site inventory issues. We don't have enough campsites related to our RVs. RV per capita RV ownership is really high here. Pardon me. So that can, cause some issues for consumers that can be a hurdle. But for the most part, I think we have tons of new RVs on the road, lots of new RVers over the last couple of years who will continue to enjoy that new investment and get out into Canada's campgrounds. So I have no concerns whatsoever about 23. I think it's going to be a great year. We've seen, we're a little bit lagging behind the States in terms of returning to lots of our festival events and in-person things. I really think 2023 is kind of we're back time. And so folks are going to be anxious to get out and explore campgrounds for sure. Relating to the new faces and things like that, we're definitely seeing a shift to more institutionalized ownership. So while the vast majority of our campground owners are still operating in kind of that mom and pop capacity, we are seeing some corporate groups, investment groups, purchasing properties, multiple properties, and beginning to operate in more of an institutionalized model. And I think that's going to have an interesting impact on the industry in Canada. It's going to have an impact on the competitiveness of the industry, I think, where we're going to have to kind of step up our game around amenities and experience offerings and things like that. It's one of my favorite things about campground owners is they're pretty darn adaptable, those guys. So I think they'll handle that with flying colors, but it's definitely going to put pressure to see a shift in Canada here this year, I think.
And Karis, maybe sort of as we wrap this up, can we just can you provide some contact information for people if they want to reach out about the show? And then let's just reiterate the days again, maybe some of the costs, and just hit those again, just so we can get people thinking about those days and maybe have them mark them down on their calendar.
Absolutely, yes. So the Canadian Outdoor Hospitality Conference is happening February 15th and 16th, 2023, virtually. So you can attend from anywhere in the world. Association members, ticket price is $149 for the first registrant from your organization and $49 per person after that. Those prices are in Canadian dollars. The website is cohce.ca. For more information about the event and to register and check out. We'll have our tentative agenda and all of that stuff populating there by the end of this week. And that'll be changing and building out over the next several days, as well as we confirm speakers and move forward. Specific to myself, you can contact me at Cara at campincanada.ca. That's just my first name, Cara, at campincanada.ca. Or if you'd like to learn more about CCRVC itself and the work that we do as Canada's National Campground Owners Association, you can visit ccrvc.ca and poke around there. There's a ton of information, all of our advocacy effort work, our newsletter archives, all kinds of things are available there, as well as several thousand campground listings and things like that. We really work hard to get as much exposure as possible for members in front of consumers across the country.
And for everybody listening, we'll have those details below about the conference with all the links that Cara mentioned. Cara, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alex.
Thanks for listening to the Outdoor Alliances podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Subscribe for more guest conversations and weekly marketing topics delivered every Monday and Friday, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'll talk to you soon.